I'm Alex Richardson, a VC and M&A partner at Taylor Wessing in London. And I'm pleased to introduce Andreas Klinger, who is a founder, investor, and leader of the Eu.Inc movement, which is what we're here to talk about for the next 10 minutes. So, Andreas, over to you.
Okay, folks. So we squeezed this in the last minute, basically. So we're a little bit short on time. I prepared a deck. Actually, we'll quickly get up. I prepared a deck just to get the core stuff across. I will skip a few slides. All of that stuff is on Twitter. You can find it there and read it on your own pace. And I want to just get across roughly what the main message, what the main core is. So quickly about me, investor, founder. I worked at Prototype, AngelList, a few other companies. I run a VC fund and a YouTube channel now. But what I mainly speak about is fixing European law, which is very exciting, as you can all imagine. And the typical question I get is why not do something simple, like AGI, space rockets and all this kind of stuff? Because of a very, very simple reason. We are right now in a global economic crisis. We keep talking about Europe versus America, but in reality it's pretty much everybody versus America. What happened over the last years is basically polarization, I will show in a second. But the main issue we have right now, in a global economic crisis, the world gets reshuffled. This is a time where big wars happen, where big reordering of the world order happens, and we basically have to decide now which part we want to get up. And this is the slide that basically summarizes the main problem. Right now, all the high productivity jobs, that basically high leverage premium jobs, are currently polarized to the States. And the quality of life we have comes from premium jobs. And as you see here, we live now in a time of global power law. So very few companies, 1 to 3 companies, can dominate whole sectors. And it's not just that they create GDP and revenue and employment and taxes. They do R&D, they even do VC investments. The biggest 7 companies right now in the States invest as much as all of European VC together. 7 companies. Or different put, nothing we say or do here in this room matters unless we as a European startup ecosystem manage to build these kind of companies. And the president said it quite well, in a time of giants, continental scale is the only tool we have. The problem we have in Europe specifically is we are fragmented as hell. In a time of crisis, America silos up, tariffs and everything, screams, we are the best, everybody else sucks. What does Europe? Self-flagellation, we are horrible, you are horrible, we're all different, we hate each other. In Europe, there's less than 18% pan-European investing in early stage. Or differently put, if you don't have angels locally, you're pretty much screwed. And even if you have them, they're very likely not to be good or quick. So this is why we launched Eu.Inc, which is essentially a pan-European legal entity. Think Delaware, but for Europe. And through this, we can do standardization of incorporation, no notaries, for example, fully digital. We can do standardization of investments and so on and so on. We launched at the perfect moment. So the startup associations have been pushing this and many other topics for the last 10 years. And we pretty much hit the moment where this was also already becoming a topic to come into the big reports of Draghi and all of this kind of stuff. So what we managed to do is we got 15,000 signatures of pretty much the who is who in European startups, and it's a quick hint, if you forgot to sign so far, now is a good moment. Patrick Collison, Paul Graham, everybody's on that list. And I know what you're thinking, great. We did a petition, maybe we did a report, and now we can just lean back and Brussels will fix all the stuff. We told them what to do, right? Yeah, no. In a time of economic crisis, we cannot afford this from my point of view. So what we did is we did the actual legal work. We went deep with legal experts from pretty much any legal firm in Europe that matters and figured out what is a compromise for legal entity that could work pan-European but is also accepted by the member states. And we handed this over to the European Commission. And we are happy to announce that this is not only one of the core topics that they're working on now. They have a task force for it and so on, but they also promised to have something to vote on by the end of this year. Okay. So far so good. We don't have time for applause. Global economic crisis. But we need your help right now. Okay? Number one, we cannot lose momentum right now. Right now is a situation, if we don't keep the momentum, it's business as usual in Brussels, it's business as usual everywhere, and we will have again all of this intermediate useless BS. You are the best connected people in Europe. What I need you to do is ping the journalists that you really like and just send them a text message. Hey, do you want to do a really cool article about founders in Europe? One of my portfolio founders would like to talk about the struggles of a European founder. Place pan-European problems and pan-European solutions. Ping the politicians you know. All this kind of stuff. This is surprisingly important because the real battleground is not Brussels. Brussels is happy if there's centralization. The real battleground that we have is here in France, in Germany, in the member states. Because in the end, even with our compromise solution, they will have to accept that there's a certain amount of power that goes to Brussels with this. And this is obviously something no national politician wants to do. Last one, very small. We would like to do a really, really cool startup event in Brussels, and we have the okay to bring some of the top politicians there, plus some of the top founders. So if anybody was thinking of anyway having a marketing budget for a big event, talk to me. I'm happy to figure something out to do this together. And that's pretty much, in a nutshell, everything. And now I get to sit down again and don't stand here like a crazy person while she's waiting for me to sit down.
Thanks. So, as you say, I think one of the key challenges is going to be convincing each country that it needs to relinquish some control over its own corporate laws. So, how do you see this working technically?
So, what we try to do with the actual proposal is not to have a perfect solution for startups. Like a perfect solution for startups is I press a button, every problem I ever have is gone. What we try to do is a compromise that member states can actually be okay with. And the way it works is imagine you have an entity, pan-European, and there's a certain level of corporate law that's standardized on European level. So incorporation, investing, stock options, all of that now works pan-European standardized, but the company is still a French or a German company, which means revenue and taxes happen still locally. Not because we want that, but because that's a compromise that actually works. Yeah.
And so does that mean that this is really just for startups, or?
So one thing we try to do is to not make it only for startups. Because there's this whole interest to add a lot of goodies, less regulation, tax incentives, all this kind of stuff. I'm a big fan of those. I don't want them in a legal entity. I want them as special programs on the side, additionally on top or on the side. The reason is quite simple. Any definition you come up with a startup right now changes likely in the next 3 years. So it's very, very hard to define what a startup is. And even if you manage to define what a startup is, what happens the moment this company is no longer a startup? Imagine it's linked to your size of your company. Now you finally grow and the German government is coming to you. Great, we're so happy for you. But before you try to raise now proper money, can you reincorporate as a GmbH? This will kill your company in this very moment. So what we try to do is a legal entity, super lean, that can work for anybody, but is ideal for startups, obviously, but legally can work for anybody, and all the grants, all the ideas additionally. I personally know people who invested in coffee shops around the corner, and those coffee shops sold for $700 million. It's really hard to predict what is a good investment and what's a good startups, and we don't need Brussels to regulate that.
And so I guess if anyone in the room now wants to start something like Eu.Inc, what are the other problems and issues that you think are being faced and that we need to work on?
So this is one of my pet peeves in general. We are right now in an economic crisis. And from my point of view, it's not enough to do reports or PR things or this. All this stuff is business as usual. If we want Brussels to, for example, fix, let's say, regulation, we have to give them a list of the regulation we need to change and fix. For example, let's take AI Act. You want AI Act fixed, work with the community, with AI experts and policy experts, figure out what is a compromise that makes sense for them and makes sense for the startup ecosystem, put in the actual work. It requires several hundred hours, unfortunately, but provide that. Because it's very easy to say everybody in Brussels is an idiot and doesn't know what startups need, but then also to say, yes, but also they should just fix it, doesn't really work. You know what I mean? So we need to work with the associations, we need to put in the actual work, and we cannot no longer afford to just sit on the byline and yeah, we're leaves in the wind, and hopefully everything will work out at the end, right? We have to actually put in the work.
So thanks. I think, sorry, there was a lot to cover in a short amount of time, but we've got our call to action, and hopefully everyone will get behind it, and next time we come together, there will have been some great developments. So thank you.